Chargers Now is presented by Prize Picks. I am your host, Will Ortner, and ESPN's Adam Schefter has released his night or week of the NFL draft report. And I'm telling you right now, we get into some nitty and gritty and some juicy details that, while the Chargers are not named directly, does impact the Los Angeles Chargers in the year of 2026. Before we get into that, though, hit that subscribe button. We just hit 3,000 subscribers last week. Thank you to everyone who helped us do that. But we got to continue to grow more and more and more. The bigger of a channel that we are, the more opportunities that we will have to cover the Los Angeles Chargers. You want daily videos? We were able to get them to you. You want twice daily videos? We got to get a little bit bigger for that. So hit that sub button for Chargers News and Rumors. Let's take that deep dive on the Adam Schefter report, shall we? Because I'm telling you right now, there are some very, very interesting things around the Los Angeles Chargers and around the National Football League that will end up impacting the Los Angeles Chargers. First, A.J.Brown is a Patriot. I know there were a lot of people that were hopeful that the Chargers would end up making a move for the Philadelphia wide receiver. It doesn't look like that is going to be a possibility, unfortunately, coming to us from Adam Schefter and all that he had to say on the matter. The Patriots remain at the forefront of trade talks for Brown. Another team could always emerge, and there's a lot of time between now and June 1st, but as of now, multiple sources say they believe Brown and the Patriots are likely to be a tandem. Interesting tandem, although probably not the most interesting tandem that has come about recently for Patriots head coach Mike Vrabel. The Chargers refuse to make a move, and I think that is the most frustrating thing around these types of comments, though, because when we look at A.J. Brown, there is a need for the Chargers to go and get a wide receiver. They were linked to Alec Pierce. They were linked even to Mike Evans. No moves were made, and there's still a bunch of cap space that is available that the Chargers are not taking advantage of. Dexter Lawrence was at one point kind of predicted to end up in Los Angeles with the Chargers. Chargers don't make a move. General manager Joe Hortiz sits on his hands and does nothing. And he ends up getting traded to the Cincinnati Bengals. At this point, I'm very frustrated in Hortiz and the lack of moves that he continues to make. It doesn't feel like this is something that should be happening for the Chargers, but at least get off your ass once and do something. At least make one move. At least get interesting for 1 minute. There is cap space available. And I understand that Hortiz likes to grow with the guys that got him there. Sometimes you need to add a guy or two in free agency or make a splashy trade. I think this Chargers team is on the cusp of being great. Problem is, they don't do anything to be great, and that's very frustrating. We have more storylines that are going to impact the Chargers in just 1 minute, but let's let you know that today's show is presented by Prize Picks. The playoffs are here for basketball. Baseball is underway. It's time to cash in with Prize Picks. Prize Picks is America's #1 sports picks app and is the best place to win cash while watching sports. To qualify for a Prize Picks lineup, just pick 2 or 6 players and select more or less on stat projections, including points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers, hits, home runs, and strikeouts across several other sports and stats. With the new social feeds feature, you can share Prize Picks with your friends and copy lineups with a single click. That includes myself and producer Cyril. You follow us on Prize Picks and get the picks before they even get posted on the show. I have a lineup going for the basketball action this evening. Donovan Mitchell, more on his points, rebounds, and assists. Jalen Brunson, more on his points, rebounds, and assists. Anthony Edwards, more on his points, rebounds, and assists. $5 there pays $30. New user offer. Download the Prize Picks app today and use code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to receive $50 in lineups. That's code HMA when you play your first $5 lineup to get an extra $50 in lineups with Prize Picks. That clickable link to download the app is in the comments and description of today's video. Jonathan Greenard is someone that is obviously linked in some trade rumors, and he is someone that I think the Chargers very well could be interested in, or at least very well should be interested in. When we look at the stat line for Greenard over the last 4 seasons, obviously last year was not necessarily his best season, but that doesn't mean that he is over the hill. That does not mean that he is a washed up has-been. He is definitely someone that I still believe can have a lot of success in the National Football League and would be a very likely addition to help improve the product that is going out on the defense for this Chargers team. You need someone to replace Odafe Oweh. The problem is, Schefter, he believes that the Eagles are in the driver's seat for that move, especially if they end up moving on from A.J.Brown. In my personal opinion, Joe Hortiz needs to get in on the action here. Like, the part that frustrates me the most isn't that necessarily the deals are not getting done. It's that it doesn't even feel like the subject is being broached from Hortiz with the rest of this Chargers crew. There are a couple of different positions that the Chargers very easily could go in and make a steady improvement by just making a trade. That's probably not going to hurt your 2027 draft at all, or even kind of put this defense or even offense, this roster, in a hamstring position. I mean, just look at your linebacker depth right now. You are relying on Khalil Mack to stay healthy the entire season. I understand that you might go in and say, hey, there's a guy that we can draft. He's going to be great behind Khalil Mack. But you know who you already know is pretty damn good? Jonathan frickin' Greenard. So let's have a conversation. Let's make a move. Let's do something. Because right now it feels like the Chargers are the single dudes that go to the party and sit on their weather app the entire time. Look, I get it. It's scary to talk to girls. It's scary to talk to other GMs and try and make a trade. Do it. At least have the conversation. At least put yourself in the arena. At least give yourself an opportunity for a move to be made. Because right now the Chargers aren't doing it. And it's very frustrating to watch from my seat. Will Joe Hortiz make a trade during the NFL draft? Let me know down below in the comment section, yes or no. Very interested to hear what your opinion is. A lot of eyes on the 2027 NFL draft right now because it's very clear that that draft is, well, a lot stronger than this 2026 draft. In fact, there are a lot of draft evaluators that are saying you might as well kind of let go of what's happening in this draft to be prepared for the next one. Adam Schefter had this to say on the 2027 NFL draft. At least evaluators acknowledge that while they were out at pro days scouting the prospects for this year's draft, they took a long, hard look at some of the aforementioned quarterbacks in next year's class. Now, those quarterbacks include Dante Moore, Julian Saint, Arch Manning, CJ Carr, Jaden Maeva. And it's very clear to me that these guys, at the very least, are going to be a deeper class than what is being offered out right now. Sam Levitt, Brendan Sorsby, and Lenora Sellers were also mentioned in there. Trinidad Chambliss was mentioned as well. When I look at this upcoming quarterback draft class, now the Chargers are not going to make a pick. And this is why Joe Hortiz wants to make sure that they hold on to that comp pick for the Odafe Oweh leaving in free agency signing. The Chargers are not going to take a quarterback. I want that very clear. The Chargers, though, can use that pick to trade up, to trade back, to trade for another player, or just by having more players and more picks, that's going to allow them to get more players to build around Justin Herbert. It doesn't make any sense for the Chargers to take a quarterback. We all know that. But you can take advantage of the situation and the amount of teams that are going to want/need a quarterback that are going to be making moves. In my personal opinion, we already knew that Hortiz was going to be at least a little bit quiet because that's just his nature. But it's also very clear that he is at least on the right path when it comes to that 2027 draft. Now, I know you might not necessarily like it, but you love the Los Angeles Chargers, and you're going to hit the thumbs up button on today's video because you love the way that we are covering the team. Next, let's talk about a rival for the Chargers because the Kansas City Chiefs, they're not sitting on their hands. They're not waiting quietly by. They are making moves. They are making decisions. When we look at the Chargers' big draft picks for this draft, they have 3 in the top 40. And that's something that's very important. 2 first-rounders and a high second-rounder. But it's also important to note with those in the top 40 there that one of those was acquired because Trent McDuffie did leave and you traded him to the Los Angeles Rams. I guess the Chiefs traded them. But to me, it's very clear that the Chiefs have a plan on reloading. They understand that if they want this Mahomes dynasty to continue, what do they have to do? They have to keep getting more and more and more talent and evolve and kind of be chameleons to a degree. Right now, it feels like the Chargers are just kind of standing pat with what they are. Well, the Kansas City Chiefs, it might not be the best draft for it, but they are making moves. They aren't just going to sit there quietly. They are going to try and put themselves in the best position to continue to succeed and to continue to grow. They don't want a lot of years like last year where they didn't make the playoffs. They want more and more years where they're in the conversation either as a wild card team or the team winning the AFC West. In my personal opinion, the Chargers should continue to be worried about the Chiefs and the moves that they are making. Let me know if you agree or disagree with me down below in the comment section. And if I get a lot of no does, I guess that does make sense. Last thing that we learned, I Command F this article. The only mention of Chargers when it talked about them taking Drew Brees in a draft that was, 20, 25 years ago, whatever that number is. The Chargers are very quiet. And I think that's very frustrating because it means one of two things. It means either the Chargers are not planning to do anything big, or they're the most secretive organization in all of sports. Now, I would love for them to be secretive. I would love for General Manager Joe Hortiz to have this master big board, this big game plan where he's going to come in and make a bunch of moves and he's going to bring in a bunch of top talent. Or even if he doesn't make a bunch of moves, every single guy that he picks, we go, oh man, that's a home run draft choice now and in 5 years when we're talking about this draft in 2031. But I don't think that's really the case. I think the Chargers are just quiet because they don't want to make a lot of moves. They don't want to do a lot of things. And I find that very frustrating when I look at this team because it feels like there are clear, easy options out there for this team to get better. The problem is they're not. And while I might be frustrated at the path that Hortiz is going down, I know I'm not the only one because I read my comment section. I read the Facebook comments. There's a lot of Chargers fans that are fed up with this team not doing anything. And I'm getting it. It feels like a move could and should have been made. What's the point of having $44 million in cap space if you don't use it? I understand that there are extensions on the way. How many of those extensions are going to be impacting that $44 million? I don't know how many. So right now it feels like you have a ton of space to do something. And you're just not. You're just not. And I hate that. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Like I said, we're trying to get to 4K subscribers. Growing the channel every single day. Thank you guys so much for viewing today's video. Make sure that you bolt up.